Hello and welcome to this GCSE History revision video focusing on the EdExcel GCSE History course. This is an exam walkthrough for the Anglo-Saxons and Normans paper. Okay, so for the Anglo-Saxons and Normans course, you're going to be tackling 3 different questions, a 4-marker, a 12-marker and a 16-marker. So for the first question, describe 2 features. So this is just a knowledge question. So you need knowledge of key features of the course. You're going to give 2 features, and each feature that you describe, you're going to need to back that up with specific supporting knowledge. The explain why question, you're looking for 3 fully explained factors, so 3 different paragraphs. You can use the 2 bullet points to guide you, plus 1 other factor. You don't have to use the bullet points though if you don't want to, as long as you've got 3 really good factors, but obviously it's probably going to be useful for you to use the bullet points. So you're going to focus on analysis and evaluation and make clear links back to the question. And then question 3, how far do you agree with? That's evaluating and historical interpretation. You're going to have detailed evidence to agree with the interpretation, detailed evidence to disagree with the interpretation, use analytical language throughout, and you need an overall opinion in a conclusion. So let's have a look at these questions in a bit more depth and detail. So question 1 should be fairly straightforward. It's worth 4 marks. You don't need to spend loads of time on it. So the question we've got here, describe 2 features of the Witan. So how to answer this question? So give 2 distinct features. So you use a phrase like the first feature, the second feature. Now you get 1 mark for each correct feature that you identify, and then you get an additional 1 mark for your supporting historical evidence. So if you have a look at the example answer, you can see here that the first sentence is the feature, and then the second sentence is actually that supporting evidence. So for each sentence, you're essentially getting 1 mark for each sentence in these example answers. So let's have a look at the first feature. So the Witan was a council of leading Saxon nobles. Its role was to make important decisions such as selecting the monarch. That's enough. You're going to get a couple of marks for that. Then you're going to go on to your second feature. So second feature, the Witan was a council which advised the monarch. This helped the monarch deal with situations such as rebellions or those who are suspected of not being loyal. Again, you're given a feature and you backed up with supporting knowledge. It doesn't need to be too detailed. One of the potential things that people can get wrong on this question is they can just write too much, and that's fine. They'll probably still get 4 marks out of 4, but it might mean you haven't got enough time to do the other questions properly. So some top tips: write 2 sentences. The first one describes the feature, the second one gives additional supporting evidence. The question is purely testing your own knowledge, so you don't need to analyze the feature. You don't need to talk about whether Witan was good at what it did or its limitations or anything like that. You are just recalling key knowledge for this question. Okay, let's have a look at question 2. It's worth 12 marks. So it will start off and it'll say something like, explain why there was a disputed succession to the English throne when William I died. Now, in terms of your second order concept, you're looking at causation here. Now, they've given you a couple of bullet points here. Now, one way to think about this question is to actually think about the bullet points as almost like being a plan. So your first paragraph might be about Normandy, your second paragraph might be about Bishop Odo, and then your third paragraph is from your wider knowledge. Now, that's really, really important because you cannot get beyond 8 marks if you don't use additional knowledge to what's on the bullet points. So how to answer this question? You need to focus on explaining the causes, use that language of causation. This was an important cause because this was an underlying cause, trigger cause, phrases like catalyst, for example, and these are all good historical language to use. Include 3 paragraphs and 3 explanations within those paragraphs. Use the bullet points, as I said, for the first 2. And crucially, you must use additional information to the bullet points to get above 8 marks. So let's have a look at an example answer. Your first paragraph might be about Normandy. When William I died, there was a disputed succession to the English throne due to Normandy. This was because when William died, he decided to leave Normandy to his eldest son, Robert, and he decided that William Rufus, his second son, should inherit England. This went against the normal convention at the time, which was that the eldest son would inherit all the land. One reason why there was a disputed succession is because William did not get on with his eldest son. They had a dispute, and during a battle, Robert had humiliated his father by defeating him, which is possibly why William left the succession like this. In addition, Robert did not get on with his brothers William Rufus or Henry, making a dispute likely. So we've got there some key reasons linked to that idea of Normandy. Our second paragraph is going to focus on Bishop Odo, so let's have a read of this example answer. Another reason that made the succession disputed was the role of Bishop Odo. Odo had been imprisoned for attempting to overthrow William I. Bishop Odo knew the nature of Robert and knew he could manipulate him. This led to Bishop Odo supporting Robert in his rebellion against the other nobles. The position of Bishop Odo was a spark. Now that's nice historical language that you're starting to think about the type of cause it is for the dispute between the brothers and was an enabling factor in causing it to happen. Bishop Odo and Robert's rebellion failed, but Bishop Odo's support for Robert was vital for causing the succession of William to the throne to be disputed. So now we need a third factor. So we need 3 factors for this question. So then you can choose, obviously, from your own ideas. And I'm going to focus on William's actions himself, the fact that he was quite vague about who should be in the succession. So let's read paragraph 3. A final factor is William's own actions. On his deathbed, it was said that William was guilty about his actions in England, such as the harrying of the North. This led to him deciding to leave it to God who should be king. The lack of a clear decision from William over who should rule England meant both Robert and William Rufus could legitimately claim the throne. So there you have it. That's how you answer the 12-mark question. Lots of people like to write a conclusion where they talk about what the most important factor is, but you actually don't have to do that for this question. But some people quite like to do that, and obviously you're not going to harm your marks if you do that. So there you have it, 3 paragraphs, 3 really well explained causes. Make sure you're using that historical language. Basically for this question, you're picking up marks for your use of specific knowledge, but also for your ability to analyse the causes and explain those causes. So any links back to the question, phrases like this meant that, this led to, this resulted in the disputed succession because, that's all fantastic work to do. So let's go on to have a look at question 3. Okay, so for question 3, this question, the main reason William I was able to keep control of England in the years 1066 to 1075 was the building of the castles. How far do you agree? Explain your answer. And you've got a couple of facts to think about here, Motte and Bailey castles and Lanfranc and the church. Now sometimes people are a bit thrown by this one, Lanfranc and the church, because it's not as common knowledge perhaps probably as things like castles. So if you really don't know a bullet point, it's fine just not to write about it. You don't have to write about the bullet points, they're just there to guide you. What you do have to do is go beyond the bullet points and have your own knowledge outside of the bullet points. So for this question, you need detailed evidence to both agree and disagree. Some people talk about point, evidence, explanation and link. But as long as you've got that detailed evidence and you're explaining your answer and you're analysing how important the different causes are, then you're going to do really well on this question. You need to include a conclusion where you give your final opinion. Now lots of people like to write an introduction, but you actually don't have to. It can be good practice to write an introduction where you might give your opinion in the introduction, particularly if you don't have time to write the conclusion in the end, because you do have to have an element of judging your overall opinion in order to get the top marks for this question. And you must use additional information to the bullet points to get the highest marks, as I've said. So the agree part, I'll just read this to you. There is much evidence to agree that William I kept control of England in the years 1066 to 1075 was to do with castles. William's castle was very large and protected the areas all around. They were built on hills with a moat surrounding it to stop intruders entering. The castles were built for protection and to show off power and authority. The castles reminded people that Normans were in control, and William used them extensively to keep control of dangerous areas like the Welsh Marches or the north, such as Richmond Castle or Pickering Castle in North Yorkshire. So just having a specific example there to back up your points is a really good practice. Then you might go on to some of your ideas to disagree. On the other hand, I believe the harrying of the North was the most crucial factor. Now this is really good practice to get kind of like that idea about which are the more important factors within the main body of your answer. I believe the harrying of the North was the main reason for keeping control. The harrying of the North was due to rebellions happening all through the North. People rebelled because of numerous reasons. William introduced a geld tax, which the Danes weren't used to, killed people he believed posed a threat to his authority, and used illegal land grabs to steal people's land and reward his followers with. The people in the North weren't happy and decided to revolt when William travelled to the North to stop rebellions. They disapproved, and when he left, they started again. This shows how much of a threat the North was. To deal with the rebels, William burnt houses and fields. They had no food, killed people and livestock. 100,000 people starved to death in the harrying of the North. No one lived between York and Durham for 9 years. This was the end of the rebellious Danes and showed William wouldn't put up with anything. This was an important way to control England using fear and terror. Okay, well now on this part, we've got some other factors you could write about, okay, or you could give another piece of evidence about whether the castles were a significant factor. So if you have a look at these ones, we've got some disagree points in here as well. So another way in which William controlled England is he had loyal Normans to help him control and rule the country. So this is where we're getting in our Lanfranc and the church. When William the Conqueror is away from England visiting Normandy, he would leave Archbishop Lanfranc to rule England. When Lanfranc ruled, he was very effective in controlling any form of dispute or unrest, showing William had allies to help him run the country. In addition, Lanfranc helped William through the power of the church. The Normans built many new churches and are also a symbol of Norman power. The church services made the Normans seem like God-given and rightful rulers, and this helped William keep control of England. Finally, another tactic William used in controlling England was the frequent journeys he made around his country. At the time, the Danelaw was very prominent. He made certain areas, like Northumbria, very different to other parts of England. William was so powerful that his mere presence could help him control local areas. William knew he had to be seen as king in different parts of the country. This meant he travelled around England with the royal court. During these travels, he would meet with important families and earls of the area. This enabled him to quickly gain control of the whole of England, including even the difficult areas like the north. In the final analysis, it's apparent that the main reason why the Normans were able to control England was the brutality of the harrying of the north. The north was the most difficult part of the country to control, and it was this action that enabled him to establish control over the north through absolute fear, terror and destruction. So the conclusion is really important to get that really clear opinion, and you can see that within that example answer we had the opinion running throughout the essay as well, but a range of different factors, all nicely linked back to the question. So it's going to be a level 4 type answer, and that's how you do that question. Okay, so I hope you found that walkthrough useful, okay, and you've enjoyed that and learned something from it, and very best of luck in your exams. Bye bye.